If any of you guys are looking to learn more about Bubble, whether you're a beginner or a professional looking to get certifications and take your skills to the next level, you got to check out NoCodeAlliance. It's been a personal project of mine for the last 2 to 3 years. I have 5 different courses there, all focusing on Bubble and taking you from zero to pro. And these courses tell you everything you need to know to start earning 6 figures as a Bubble developer. So go to NoCodeAlliance.org, either get started with the beginner course or take our package and go from zero to pro in the next 3 to 6 months, and you won't regret it. That's NoCodeAlliance.org. Back to the show.
I think the best proxy to success is actually, having the choice.
Welcome back to This Week in No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal. David Pal, looks like you're back in Los Angeles this week.
I am back home in Los Angeles.
Sounding great, looking great. We got a great show for you tonight, folks. We have the CEO and co-founder of WeWeb coming on, Raphael. He's going to share his story about building WeWeb with his co-founders, bringing it to market, the ups and downs, and then where the future might go for NoCode. But before that, we have a great slate of news on NoCode. Some things with OpenAI, some things with something else. David, why don't you take it?
Some other stuff, lots of other things, and some new stuff.
Welcome
to the news in This Week in No Code. Today, we're going to start off with Microsoft, the 800, 8,000, I don't know, some big gorilla in the room. Microsoft launches their AI-First PCs. What does that mean, AI-First?
Like
it's
a rabbit
computer, there's still a
device?
keyboard.
Okay.
It's just magic.
Okay.
Basically, they are launching their first set of PCs with built-in NPUs, neural processing units. They are there to help you run AI tasks locally, making it a little easier, saving your GPUs, and enhancing everything they'd like to include in all of their Office applications to include AI. So it's a pretty cool step forward into making AI part of life.
Yeah, is this like
making
the launch
processing
of
easier.
like the new RAM? Like you need to have so many NPUs to run your operate. Like, is this the new thing?
Yeah, it's the new RAM.
Wow.
It's now, I don't know, they need a better
NPUs.
word than NPU.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I guess we have
brain
GPUs
cells.
and we're kind of used to that, which is kind of silly too.
Yeah,
But AI
maybe. Could
first.
be.
All right.
One of the things in here, though, that they do launch is Recall. I don't know if
Okay.
you saw this. They launched this feature called Recall,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is basically the same function as Rewind, which is now limitless and has moved into wearables instead of just computer tools.
Yep.
They launched this, make it easier for you to use another person's software, basically. No, it's a way to search and ask questions uh, of everything you've seen, right?
Yep.
And the thing that makes me a little nervous about doing it with Microsoft, which is, don't forget, Microsoft makes a ton of money on ads. And so every ad you see, and they're going to start tracking, did you see this ad? And then did you actually go look at a website? It will be interesting to see how this all plays out. I am really curious. Here's a startup idea for you. Use these recall features to actually see how many times it takes to get someone to come to your website.
There you
Your
go.
actual journey, and user story can actually be managed here. A pretty cool built-in feature right into the computer.
I'm sure Microsoft is going to make this very security focused with its recall feature. I guess it's just taking like screenshots like all the time, and then it could just reference those screenshots,
Yep.
tell between colors, images, all that kind of stuff. Supposed to just essentially make it so you have like a photographic memory in some kind of way, right?
Yeah. You know how when on an iPhone or on your computer as well, when you try to switch apps, you can see the screen. It's taking the screenshots anyway. Like that's what that is, right? It's just a screenshot of what it is, so you can scroll through. And so it's just doing that, and now just analyzing it for everything. So interesting.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do like the NPUs part. I'm interested to see where this goes with it. Microsoft's it's kicking, it's a major player in this race and has a lot of money invested in OpenAI. It's investing in the tech behind it, with devices that help make this kind of technology work more than what I see Apple doing, quite frankly.
They
So
have the M2 chips. I'm sure those are leaning towards some AI capabilities, but yeah.
yeah, it seems like Microsoft is taking a much bigger bet on AI than Apple,
I mean,
generally.
about a $900 billion bet
There we
thanks to
go.
OpenAI. Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry, wrong chip. The M4 now.
there we go.
Thanks for
Yeah,
the correction there, Harrison.
there we go.
All right,
So
what's happening on the other side of the pond?
the other side of the pond, No
Um,
Code UK just had his first conference yesterday. Huge shout out to the guys behind it, James and Kieran, aka No Code Life. Congrats to you guys for doing this. It's an incredible feat. These two gentlemen were like, "Hey, there's not a No Code conference in London yet, so let's make a No Code conference in London," and they actually did it. Right? This is a really hard thing to do. You need to find venues, you need to find sponsors, you need to have people flying from all over the world, lodging located, branding, all that kind of stuff, and the pictures look great. I talked to an attendee this morning. He loved it. He said it was like about 150 people in person. It was like a no code family reunion in many ways. A lot of people meeting each other for the first time where they've had
mhm.
friendships online for many, many years coming together. I think one of the biggest and most infamous connections was the Nigel connection where, we've all known
Yeah,
Nigel from
everyone
all
knows
over
Nigel from the forum.
from so long ago, but no one's really ever met him in person. And so after 5, 7, 9 years, people were able to meet him. Thank him for all the help that he has been in the no code industry as one of the godfathers, I'd like to say. So
We can finally put the rumor to rest that it was actually Emmanuel there.
what do you mean?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
That wasn't a
I
real
I didn't get it
just
there.
wanted to see it was not a real rumor. It would be funny if that was a rumor, but it was not.
Anyways, they had 12
Yeah.
speakers, hands-on learning, no-code AI hackathons, curated content, a lot of great different indie makers, builders, creators, agency owners, everybody joining together. Fantastic spirit, fantastic energy in that room. Wish I could have been there. Hopefully, we can do this on a yearly basis and
Yeah.
we can continue to support them in that way because it's just fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds great.
What
All
about
right.
OpenAI? What are they
All right,
doing with their team?
let's move
Because
on to OpenAI, where the only thing not safe about the safety team is their job safety. They have been dissolved. It seems like the one of the I guess co-founders of OpenAI, Ilya, has left the building. I don't know
who's
how
supposed to
or
be like a
why.
brilliant prodigy kind of
Yeah,
talent kind of thing.
one of the most brilliant minds, as Sam has said. He was also one of the orchestrators of the coup last year,
Yeah.
and so rumor has it that he hasn't even been in OpenAI for a few months now. He hasn't been showing up to work or to the building at least, and he has left. And following that shortly, because he was a big proponent of this super alignment problem, right? How do you actually align super intelligent systems? Jan, I think Jan Likey has also left. He
Mhm.
was really formerly the head of the super alignment team. And then a few other people have left. And that's where the memes started on Twitter. If you haven't, I resigned from OpenAI today.
Yeah.
That is coming from here, right? So they
Yeah.
have, I guess, decided that OpenAI safety or AI safety will be run separately in different ways, and this is an open area of conversation in the community of how
Yeah.
important this is.
Jan cited that they had disagreements internally over the company's focus on product development and over safety. And it feels very much like like a coup 2.0, but not like a coup in that way of just like a remainder of like what happened, I think a year ago now.
Hmm.
Just like it
Yeah,
was just never able to be repaired. Things that said maybe they would be changed would never actually change. And they were just like,
yeah,
okay, well, we're just out in a more maybe professional way than the first time. But it just like those relationships maybe could never have been mended.
yeah. I think some other people, one of the CTOs over at Facebook basically says like, why are we worried about AI safety if it's not even smarter than a household cat right now? I don't know. I mean, some people
Interesting.
don't think it's as big of a problem, although it would be nice to have some safety baked in. We'll see how this ends up
It
going.
seems like we have a lot of different variants on this. So like Apple hasn't done anything because they're worried about safety. And then we have Google that is very worried about safety, but they're pushing, but they're not first. And then seemingly OpenAI that is less worried about safety and just pushing all the time. And so we kind of have players in each track. And I don't know if you recently saw the interview with the founder of Google or talking about how OpenAI has breached its terms and trained on open data for its Sora
Yeah.
model, that being YouTube data in that
Yeah.
publicly, and the ethics behind all that too. And so there's a lot of hearsay going on out there right now. Um, as things continue to heat up, as more monies continue to get there, I think there's a lot of pressure, and it's feeling like it's more and more of a pressure cooker right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the safety side of things. I don't know. I mean, some people even go so far as to say it's impossible to train an LLM not on copyrighted data. Like there's just everything's copyrighted by someone. But the improvement of AI is driven by data. And so
Yeah.
actually Scale AI, also a former YC company, one of the youngest billionaires to be minted, I guess. They raised $1 billion just this week, at least it was announced, to help create what they call frontier data, right? In order, as these models get bigger, you need more and more data to train on, and we're running out of more data to make.
Mm.
And synthetic data, which is another problem solved by people like Gretel AI, doesn't actually help train the model in the same way, and actually could be a detriment to the model in certain circumstances. And so they're looking for, how do we go get more data to train on? I don't know the answer, but that's definitely one of the questions they have. So
Yeah,
they'll need
very,
the copyrighted stuff for sure.
very interesting. Well, why don't we get on to our interview with Raphael from WeWeb? Raphael, welcome to the stage.
And now a word from our sponsor.
So last October in our news segment, we mentioned Buildship as a brand new low-code app builder. Not really app builder, but like a automation builder where you can think of it as like a
The back
Zapier,
end
a back-end
as a
builder. Okay,
service.
thank you. An API builder, right?
Yeah.
More powerful, more controllable, more scalable version of Zapier, but still heavily infused with AI, and it's super easy to work with. And so I used Buildship to create a tutorial where I had a video I created on YouTube, and I was able to send that video to Buildship. Buildship sent it off to OpenAI, transcribed it, created an SEO optimized blog article, and sent it back to Bubble. And that's how I have then turned all of my 50 Bubble tips into 50 blog articles using this integration. I will put the link to that tutorial below in the description, but you need to know about buildship.app. They are a fantastic way to build an API builder, a backend builder, an automation builder. They have a step-by-step way where you have nodes and you can use them in a no-code way or in a low-code way, exposing those codes. And then you can use AI to create any kind of new nodes for you. And they also have a
Mhm.
library of nodes and templates for you to get started. And the libraries are packed: Google Vision, OpenAI, all the latest AI stuff kind of thing. It has everything there for you to get started. So if you're interested in upscaling your automation game, building some custom APIs, or so much more, and if you don't know code, that's fine. If you know a little bit of code, that's fine too. Either way, you're going to be taken care of with Buildship. Go to buildship.app, get started today. We'll put a link in the description and maybe include some special freebies in that link as well.
Ooh.
So check them out. And otherwise, back to the show, David. Here we are with the CEO and founder of WeWeb, Raphael. Raphael, thank you for coming on This Week in No Code. How are you?
My pleasure. I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
We're doing great. We always love to get the chance to interview CEOs of popular no-code platforms, WeWeb being one of those. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you and how you came to founding WeWeb.
Yeah, well, it's a long story, but so WeWeb was co-founded by three people. So myself, Marc, and Florian. The three of us are French. Marc and Florian studied together at the university, and I met Florian through a common friend. So that I had in my university, and Florian and that guy are friends from youth.
Oh,
And so
cool.
I told my friend at the university, hey, I want to start my own startup, but I'm looking for technical people to do that because my background is in finance.
Mm.
So nothing to do with tech to get started.
What
But I
what year
always
was this? This is like
to say,
2020?
no,
No.
way before. We met in 2015
Oh, wow.
with
Okay.
Marc and Florian. Yeah. So almost 10 years
All right.
ago. Yeah. And so and so, yeah, I wanted to have this venture. I needed to meet technical people. My friend did the introduction, and we became friends, like instantly, with Marc and Florian. And we said, okay, so the three of us want to start something, but what? And we really loved anything that was related to tech, and especially web. And so we really started, I would say, rather as a web agency. And so we were, tinkering, building for others, trying to understand, what problems we could solve. And so eventually, so we met in 2015. We really started to work together. So we did a couple of things here and there, but we really, were full time working together in 2018, right? So this is the beginning of WeWeb.
3 years after you met, tinkering
Yeah,
around a little bit, but now
exactly.
you're
Yeah.
you're
So
full time working on something together now.
yeah, exactly. So we were building for people back in 2017 already. We're building mobile applications. We're building websites. We were building web apps. We were building a lot of things. And eventually we thought, actually building things is not so easy, especially for me as a non-programmer. I wanted to put my hands into the thing, but just couldn't, right? And so that's where we started to use other no-code platforms. And so, there is this, the whole world back in 2018, we need to think about it again. It was really the rise of React, Vue.js, Angular, those frameworks. And organizations were starting to use API-first systems where the backend and the front end were decoupled. And so we, with Marc and Florian, we thought, well, there is a space for people who have decoupled backend. They expose data through their API, but they cannot use Webflow to build their websites on top of it, right? Or they can, but you have to tinker, you have to proxy the data into their CMS, and it's not really thought for decoupled architecture. And so it's very funny, like we wrote a strategic paper about it because we were very, enthusiastic, and this is the way we work. We are kind of structured about where we want to go. So we wrote that paper and just released it. And this was 2019. And so, some investors actually found out about the paper and reached out to me and said, hey, we want to invest. And I said, yeah,
Okay.
no
You
kidding.
hit you
This
hit
is
you
what
hit the
happened.
nerve, someone gets it.
Yeah. And I said, no, we're just not ready. We don't have a product. We don't have traction. We don't have nothing. I'm not VC ready. And I was just looking for, angel money just to get us rolling because we were making money through the web agency. However, we didn't have, enough money to be full time on building that product that we thought would be super interesting.
Which is
But
incredible, by the way. The chance or the chance that someone reaches out and says, "I just want to invest before you have anything,"
yeah,
from like a paper alone is like incredible.
absolutely. I'm so
A
thankful to
dream
my
for so many
investor. Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like we're not really ready for it. So I'm very thankful for my first investors. And they are still, the main investor at WeWeb. And those
Awesome.
guys are very, very technical. And so
Mhm.
they basically understood, what we wanted to build. And
Yeah.
they said, you guys will need money. You need to work on this full time. So just go. So we raised the first round. So we closed it in January 2020 and built the
Prime
MVP.
time.
And
Yeah,
back in the
prime, like,
days,
no code, pandemic kind of area.
yeah, very true. Yeah, so we closed in January. In March was the pandemic,
Wow.
and so we decided to keep working on this because we thought it was interesting, and so we built the MVP. And in November we applied to YC and got in. Right, so we did the interview and got accepted because we started to have a bit of traction. But WeWeb was really back in the days really MVP
Mhm.
at the MVP stage, and we were very different from now. Only a website builder and not a
Mhm.
web application builder for headless CMSs, right? So people who had like headless systems could build their websites with our platform. So we're starting to get traction. That got us into YC. The partner at YC, Jared Friedman, was also, I think, very interested by the thesis, right? He was like, yes, people, are decoupling, backend and frontend are being, independent now. And so people who want to use no code on top of those independent backend, they don't have anything to build. So, and during YC, we got a lot of exposure. We could talk about YC for hours. It was an amazing experience. I'm so thankful we could go through that. And so thanks to them, we got so much exposure that we had a sufficient amount of users that were trying to, bend WeWeb, build web apps and not websites.
Yeah.
And so we talked to that set of users, and they told us, hey guys, building a website, makes sense, but my backend decoupled is rather built. I want to build, web applications on top of this. So
So
please, yeah,
when you launched the website builder, this had come from, hey, you can't really do this right now with Webflow. It would be easier if you could kind of take what Webflow did, but in the decoupled backend world, the
true.
headless CMS. Even at that point, did you know that was just the MVP? That's where you started, and you were always going to get to apps, or
No,
was it really this bending and breaking of the initial users?
yeah, exactly. At that point, we really thought that there would be a market for only website builders, decoupled. However, it was a hard sell. People, and so why is that? And I think that's interesting to know. It's because, most people using headless CMSs usually have a dev team, and those guys will build in React or Vue, whatever. And even though they would find it interesting for their marketing team to be able to edit some parts of the website, headless systems thought about it, Strappy, Contentful, and the others, and were starting to add value for the marketing teams, right? And so they were starting to enable marketing teams to actually build pages directly in the headless CMS using the design system in React or Vue of the devs. And so they were kind of getting the value out of what we were trying to build. And we really identified that by talking to users, right? So
Yeah.
it boils down to understanding, what users want. And so those users that we're targeting were telling us, you guys add value, but the pain point is not so hard for me.
Yeah.
While others who wanted to build web apps were telling us, I'm dying to use your product when it's a web app builder, right? I need this right now, make it, interactive, make me build my logic, just put some JavaScript inputs and I will code, that type of
Yeah.
things. And so it's the end of YC, we are in March, 2021. And we are like, what do we do? Right? I need to raise another round. And do we go all in on the first assumption that
Yeah.
we need to be a website builder, or do we pivot? And the decision, it's not really a pivot. It's not, do we change use case, right? Do we change the
Yeah.
focus of the use case, but we remain a decoupled front-end builder? And the decision was made based again on users. And so we did, I don't know how many interviews, like hundreds and hundreds. And so the way YC tells you to interview people is, first of all, you ask a lot of questions, but in the end, you ask them the propension to pay. How
Yeah.
painful is this for you, and how much are you willing to pay? And it
Yeah.
was clear at the end of those interviews that the pain point for people who wanted to build web apps was much bigger than people who wanted to build websites. So we thought, we want to add maximum value to people. So let's start adding those web app functions that are missing in WeWeb. And so I raised another round in May 2021 to execute this. And in December 2021 or January 22, to make it easy, WeWeb version 2 is released, and we are a web app builder, right? We are a front-end builder for web apps. And, from 2020 to the end of 2021, so in 2 years, we were starting to get traction, but, not as much. And it was not sure that the company would survive. But, in 2022, when we became what WeWeb is today, then it was obvious that, WeWeb could survive and would have a meaning in the market. We would have a reason of existing in the market. Yeah.
Let's hop back to those user interviews. So you're in NYC right now. You're filling out the product. You're trying to make sales into marketing teams and dev teams that have these headless CMS, and they're like, great,
Yes.
cool, but we don't really need this so much. You now start getting user interviews. Who are these users? Are they the dev teams? Are they marketing people, operations people, CEOs of other companies? Who's
Yeah.
really answering that call?
So back in YC, we talked to everyone, and it was very interesting because, again, we were trying to have a methodology on, who we were talking to. And so we define ICP, so type of companies.
Mhm.
And then within those companies, we define personas, who we want to talk to.
Yeah.
And we did everything from, solo founders to enterprises.
Hmm.
So that's for the ICP. And then we did everything from marketing team to product team to tech. And
Okay.
so we did that matrix book. And then we had basically a very clear overview of the market. And so for the website building part, devs didn't care about what we were building. Marketing people cared
Hmm.
about work. Product teams, nope, because they don't really take care of the website. It's
Sure.
it's
Yep.
usually between marketing and tech. And marketing people were telling us, yeah, it's a pain, but the headless CMSs are kind of edging this now, so we might not need really WeWeb. And I don't want to put away all the things I built in React to use WeWeb instead. That
Yeah.
kind of
And
stuff.
this response from them is probably actually even more they didn't want to say the real answer, which is yeah, we probably wouldn't use this. They're like trying to be polite when they're answering. Like this is
Yes,
one of the hardest things of a good user interview is reading their actual emotion and asking the right question so they
yes,
can't skirt around it and give you what they think you want to hear.
Honest feedback. Yeah.
Right, like, you
very
want
true.
feedback, "Hey, I don't want this. I'll never use it no matter what you do. I'm not" like, that might be more helpful to you than,
Yeah,
"Well, maybe if certain things were true and that it was free and maybe we would." You don't want
yeah,
that.
exactly. And that's why, and you said the right thing. If it's free, maybe I would use it. And that's why in the end, YC tells you, ask them to pay for it or how
Hmm.
much they would be ready to pay, because the credit card never lies.
Yeah.
People can tell you whatever, but if they pay, then it shows that there is value,
Yeah.
according to them. If they don't, then it means that, the value is questionable.
Yeah.
So always ask, them to pay. And before we actually went into building WeWeb, the front end web app builder, we got people to pay for it. And I'm also very
Cool.
thankful to those users who are still, some of them are still our users today,
Yeah.
that they paid WeWeb for something it was not yet. And so we kind of edged this by, again, YC thing, doing things that don't scale. We were
Mhm.
just, built, coding things that were missing and helping helping those people building those web apps, using both WeWeb and our code. So it was very clunky at the beginning until it became real. But at least, we got sure that people were willing to pay for this.
Yeah. Yeah. For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio NoCode. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps, marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there.
You
And
said you raised
one
a couple rounds. Is it a friends and a family and a seed at this point?
No, so we did. So the first one was with the VC I told you about.
Yep.
So it was a 1 million round, and the
Okay.
second round was a 2 million round right after
Okay.
YC, and it was a mix of YC, obviously, existing investors who just
Mhm.
chipped in again and invested a lot more, and then we got in a couple of interesting angels that we wanted to have part of the cap table, and that constituted the second round. The second round was uh, I think in 7 weeks I closed it and got the money, so it was very
Great.
fast.
Great.
But
That's
that's another
That's the
YC
magic
magic.
of YC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
One user group that wasn't in that interview list that sounded a little surprising was no code builders, right? At least you didn't
yeah,
say it specifically. So, now fast forward to today, right? WeWeb is a no code tool, and a lot of folks like JJ and I in the no code space go, "Oh, this is a no code builder, right? I could build this without knowing." At that time, where did you think about the no code ecosystem and those kinds of
Mm.
builders?
yeah. So it was 2021. The way I think about no code builders or no code makers, as we call them, is really, if you think, in a company, I think about them as either developers or product people. So, for me, they are kind of part of some of the teams that I mentioned.
Mhm.
It's just that sometimes they are just non-programmers, but they are builders just like developers are, right? They are just
Right.
using a different framework, as I like to call it. It's just a visual framework, but they eventually code, right? So they program, but in a visual fashion. And so in 2021, we were really not on the radar of code platforms. Um, and I think, I remember in 2018 and, even in 2020, when we raised that first round, no code was still not really a world. It was still not really a community. And so I don't know if you would agree, but I think it started to become something like an industry as a whole, a community as a whole, as I prefer to call it, probably in 2021,
Sure.
something like that.
In the beginning of the pandemic, it really started forming a bit more
Blooming. It was kind of like
mainstream.
tool specific for a while.
Yeah, there were lots
Mm,
of people, like, I was in the forums of Bubble and walking around and
Same.
my social network banging my chest about why no code was great and Bubble was awesome and all these things, but
Yeah.
it was definitely not a common practice,
yeah.
in
In
the
those
world. Yeah.
days, I thought Bubble was no code, and no code,
Yeah.
like the no
Oh,
code industry was just Bubble. Like I just
Yeah.
thought that's what it was.
Which was
yeah.
not
It's very early.
so wrong. Like,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
very early. Yeah, and they had
Yeah.
a big lead at that point.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm not sure, but I think it's Webflow who actually coined the term of no code, but
Oh,
I'm not entirely sure. I think that's
we
Vlad
will
came,
blame them then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they blame themselves now
Yeah. Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
so then in now 2022, you launch the web app side,
yes.
and what happens? Now, all of a sudden, the floodgates open and people are hopping in.
Yes. So what happens is, I think, typical product-led growth type of things. And so we are in a community or industry that is very builder-led, right? And so those people, they behave like, we behave like developers. And so we like to share on forums. We like to participate to webinars and office hours. We like to share best practices. We actually like to read documentation and go through academies, the type of things. And so when people started to build cool things with WeWeb, then word of mouth picked up.
Mhm.
And so it's very interesting that we didn't grow the team so much between 2022 and now. But the company has nothing to do, right? In 2 years, we really became much bigger. We are on the radar now. People talk about us, and it's really thanks to the community. And so there is also this theory in the startup world. We call it, community-led growth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's what WeWeb is part of. And the whole no-code movement is an enabler of platforms like ours. So I think that's really what happened. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and there was some good timing in there. I seem to remember when the initial bubble pricing fiasco arrives,
Yeah.
lots of questions going, okay, well,
Yeah, you guys were
we need
ready and
something
prepared.
else. And I think you
Yeah.
were a little prepared for that, took advantage of that as
Might have
Yes,
well,
but
accelerated
strategically,
that adoption a little bit. Yeah.
very
which was
true.
definitely good timing.
Yeah, very true. And I think we got lucky, if we can say that, but I don't want to,
Luck
you know,
is where you're prepared and
You were
opportunity
you were
strikes.
ready at that
You
point.
were
Yeah.
ready.
we were ready. I think is the right thing, because yeah, I don't want to say, Bubble is a fantastic platform, and I don't think we really compete with Bubble. I just think that we are a different way of
Mhm.
building. And so what happened with, when Bubble changed their pricing, we were actually in the, it was really a coincidence that we were actually completely reworking our pricing, and that the way we were thinking about our pricing and positioning was completely aligned with what people were complaining about.
Mm.
And so, when all of this happened, we obviously accelerated, but only by 1 week, the, the, um, the announcement of the new
Yeah.
pricing.
Yeah.
But it was just completely aligned with what people were expecting from a local platform. And
And,
again, I
and
think we're, yeah.
yeah. Do you Okay, so on the forum from my side, I'm here in the forum going like, "Oh crap, what the hell is this?" Everyone's like complaining, "I'm gonna go
Yeah.
switch. I'm doing this."
Okay.
Did you see people actually switch, or did it
Oh
just
yeah.
is that when people actually started looking?
A lot of people switched to our platform. So I think we kind of double sales and double
Oh wow,
signups in 1 month. And
Yeah.
then it was interesting because it was not a peak. It was a peak that continued.
yeah,
Oh, that's great.
So it was really an accelerator of
Yeah.
the business. But again, I think for the right reasons, not because bubble is crap or whatever,
Yeah.
because
yeah,
we just offer an interesting alternative for people who say want to use an alternative backend
mhm,
Yeah.
um, and want to be more in control of some of the things that they are caring about, like I don't know, the security, performance,
Access to
scalability,
code.
access to code, exactly
Yeah.
deployment on your own infrastructure, that type of things that Bubble doesn't offer. But I think for reasons that make sense, because I don't think their market would be entirely interested about that.
Mhm.
And and you know, a stack like Zano and WeWeb or Supabase and WeWeb offer such alternative for people who are interested about this. And I think these are just
yeah.
adjacent markets.
So you mentioned Xano and WeWeb. I imagine that the product developed, as you're launching the app side, the version 2, the web app, people
Yeah,
are coming in as a developer with a product going, I have this back end already. I need to now build a front end for it. They're
exactly.
probably not in the early days Xano or Supabase users. They're probably homegrown, like they've built it already. They just need a
Absolutely.
better framework.
Yeah.
And now it just happens to be that it does support these other frameworks as well for like the traditional, not the right word, a full no code stack, right? We'll call
Yes.
it, right? As opposed to homegrown and WeWeb. Now, when you look at your customer base today, obviously seeing that, Bubble pushed a bunch of no coders, we'll call it in your way. Who makes up most of your customers? Are they like enterprise corporate folks launching stuff, or who is it?
No, I would say, interestingly, I think our customer base looks like the market itself. So we have more
Mm.
customers that are SMBs because there are just more SMBs in the world.
Mhm.
Um, I'm talking about not revenue, but absolute number of customers.
Sure.
This repartition, because then obviously enterprises they constitute a bigger part of our revenue
Yeah.
because they pay more, because they are much
Mhm.
more demanding on many things. However, in absolute number of customers, the WeWeb customer sample looks like the market itself. So we have a lot of indie developers, we have much more SMBs, and then
Mhm.
we have a little bit of enterprises.
Mhm.
And so you guys probably realize, but WeWeb is very open. So
Mhm.
we are not like platforms, I would say, that are extremely specialized for enterprises, like Encore
Retool.
or OutSystems. Even Retool, I would say, is very open because
Mhm.
you and I can try it for free, or we
Yeah.
can pay just a little bucks and have a platform running. It's not the case for Mendix or OutSystems, that type of
Okay.
Mhm.
platforms that
Yeah.
are fantastic, by the way.
Yeah.
OutSystems is like 400 million ARR or something like this.
Wow.
Wow.
It's massive, massive. Yeah, because it brings a
I've
lot
never
of
even heard
value.
of them.
Yeah, it's so big. It's so
Wow.
big. But they are dedicated for enterprises
Okay.
because enterprises have very specific requirements.
Yeah.
Mendix, I don't know their revenue. I think it's less than OutSystems.
Okay.
However, it's also very big. Uh, and those platforms are just dedicated to enterprises. And just
Yeah.
what I wanted to say is WeWeb, but I think that's part of our culture and who we are, is very open. So you can trade for free. You have the first plan starts at 39 per month, which is affordable for,
Most
individual
people.
startups or something. Yeah. And very much like Retool, Bubble, Webflow, and that type of products
Mhm.
that we love. So yeah, this is how our customer base is made, and I don't think it's gonna change so much. I just think that in the close future we'll probably get more adoption by enterprises um, than today, because WeWeb is getting more enterprise ready, but that's
Yeah.
not part of a strategy really, and it's more like Retool in that case, I would say, where we are very open ended for everybody, but then retool kind of structure, some offers dedicated to enterprises. We'll get there eventually, but that's not one of our focus. Our focus is just to build a great product that everyone can use.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any big case studies or wins or like examples that you point to of like, hey, look what has been built on WeWeb?
Yeah, of course, a ton. I would say a couple that I can share. Let me see, like the ones that are very funny or impressive. There's one, but it's very specific to our country. So we are French, obviously. And so one of our largest customers is La Poste, which is the French mailing system, but the mail, like the ones that you actually put in the mailbox. And so there are some stamps that you put on those things, right?
Yeah.
And so it happens that in France, those stamps, they have colors. And for the red one, it will not be, on the market anymore, like 6 months ago. And so people who bought it before could sell them online, right? And so there was, the French state did a lot of advertising. It was everywhere on the TV. It was like even on the bus, ads, physical ads and stuff that you could sell your stamps. And this app was actually built with WeWeb, right? And so we were so proud because we could tell our moms, "Hey, mommy, look, finally understand what we do now, right?" This was built with WeWeb, and even La Poste actually used it. And so I think it's a fantastic use case. Why? When it was released, I think millions of people logged in, created an account and logged in to sell their stamps. And so I would have freaked out. Yeah. And I would have freaked out if it was managed on my backend, right? But fortunately it was not. And again, I think it's a fantastic use case for WeWeb because the backend of La Poste, as you can imagine, is extremely old. It has tons and tons of APIs. It's extremely custom. And so, but WeWeb being a simple front-end builder, as long as you have an API, you can just connect to it, right? And then they deploy the code, they manage the production on their own servers. Obviously, they have their own servers, right? They don't even use AWS.
They brought it on-prem.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
And so I think it's a fantastic, WeWeb use case. You wouldn't have done that probably with Bubble. I don't think it would make sense for them. They didn't even think about it. However, doing it with WeWeb was a good call for them because they built their front end much faster and they went to production much faster. And then they own the code because it's standard code, right? So
and they were able to get it approved as a vendor because they were able to bring it on-prem and be able to meet their security regulations and all that kind of stuff and
absolutely
own the code and that, but still support millions of users and not worry about it.
Exactly.
And then keep the back end that has all the database records and all that kind of stuff for it all.
They don't have to change anything. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for us, it was such a fantastic win, right? So I think that's one of those nice examples.
It seems like a newer win. You have, I know, plenty of other ones as well too, but that seems like a newer one.
Yeah. This one was recent. I don't know when exactly, but this was like the end of 2023, I think.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Some of your other wins, I guess, also include bigger enterprises that also need the ability to access the code, bring it on-prem, and have that level of very high security approved by their, as an approved vendor to bring it into their stack kind of thing. And WeWeb will be able to satisfy that.
Yeah, I think PwC is listed on the site. That's a big.
Exactly. PwC is one of them. BNP as well. It's a very large bank, as you probably know it. Crédit Agricole, there's Carrefour. These are like big French corporates. There's Decathlon that we just got recently. There's Cisco that's working with us as well. So I mean, it's good. Like these are beautiful logos. And at the same time, I didn't mention, but like we're super proud as well that people build their, startups on WeWeb and Zano or Supabase. They are building fantastic SaaS platforms. They build marketplaces. Some of those people out there, they also build just internal applications, but like that needs to be customized. But the ones that makes us very proud, I think, is when people build their SaaS on our platform, because your SaaS is your core product, right? This is what you sell. This is what you will make money with. So you bet your company on the technology, right? And so when people choose WeWeb, and it's a lot of the times, right? A lot of our users are actually building SaaS platforms with WeWeb. For us, it makes us very proud because we're like, okay, it means that we are adding value and people trust us.
As
to
the
build
core
their
thing. The whole meat and potatoes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for me, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Where does the future look like? You've raised a little bit of money so far. Are you looking to raise again? Are you don't need to? Are you
Yeah.
like what does that future look like going forward? Do you need to increase your team or what do you see?
Yeah. So we are very fortunate that we don't need to raise, and we are very fortunate that we have a couple of term sheets on the table now to raise. So I mean, we have the choice. Are we going to
Congrats.
do it or not? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Um,
That's
yeah,
the best time to raise, right? When you don't need it.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
people say. Yeah, exactly. And at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm feeling like if we don't really need it, why would we? And
Mhm.
so why not wait for a moment where we actually need that money? But it's a question that makes a lot of sense. I know that raising money would probably be reassuring for the community. And at the same time, I'm always sad that people think that, this is kind of a proxy of success,
Right.
raising,
It's
because
very
that's
much
not this.
so a
Yeah,
sign
that's
of
not
success.
necessarily
Oh, they raised this much, they must be succeeding kind of thing.
yes.
Yeah.
And I understand the logic, the rationale makes sense. They are VC vetted. It's obviously hard to raise money. VC are serious people. So they review and they think
Mm,
about the future, about the
maybe
company and
not
stuff.
FTX, but
Not all of
otherwise,
them, but
maybe
at
others.
least the best ones. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, but I think the best proxy to success is actually, having the
M
choice. So
making money.
making money. Yeah. Being
Yeah,
profitable.
revenue.
Yeah, exactly. And so we are fortunate that we are profitable. And so whether we raise or not, um, we'll hire 15 to 20 people within the next 12 months.
Wow.
So like the company is really growing from a headcount perspective.
Yeah.
And it's because we need to support the existing customers.
Yeah.
We need to improve many things. We want to invest on different things, AI among them. We can talk about it
Mhm.
later if you want. But yes, from I would say financing perspective, we have different choices, and WeWeb is we are fortunate that WeWeb is very healthy, and that's because of the community and the growth that we're having right now. And yeah, so we want to grow the team. So if you want, I can talk about the way we want to structure
Well,
those
I do want to
hirings.
be mindful of some time here, and I do want to touch about the elephant in the room. I mean, I guess you talk about the origins, the technical white paper kind of thing that came out. Hey,
Yeah.
people are decoupling things. React is now here. We heard from the Toddle CEO Andreas was talking about how like how unfortunate it was for Bubble when they didn't have these frameworks to
Mm,
start building their no code tool. And now like web development has moved so far. And now you get to start with a leg up. And
yeah.
now we have a new paradigm, which is
Yeah.
AI and
AI.
text to
Mhm.
code. And, it's a very different world than it
Yeah.
was in 2021, 2018, like any year before last.
Mhm.
It's a whole new world, and now we're seeing things like Devin come out, coding co-pilots.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is so
what does
exciting, by
that
the
mean
way.
for WeWeb? What does that mean for no code or code, or are they just
Yeah.
now the same thing?
I think, I mean, now we are in the, uh, kind of,
Future.
perspective, yeah, future.
Yeah.
The way we think about it is it's a fantastic opportunity for no code, um, because AI is going in the same direction from a mission perspective as no code, which means giving the ability to much more people to build much faster, very qualitative products, right? And I
Boom.
think
Nailed it.
that's the mission of no code, and that's the mission of AI, right? Or that's what AI will enable. And when you think about merging the two, which will be what we're going to do, um, you get something absolutely fantastic. So think about it from a UX perspective. You land you just sign up in WeWeb, right? Um, you get AI assisted in your onboarding. We ask you, hey, what do you want to build? Hey, do you have a design system in Figma? Hey, do you use what backend are you using? That type of simple questions to set you up. The AI does the whole setup. It sets you up with Xano, Supabase, whatever you have in the backend. It
Yeah.
imports your components from Figma, your tokens, etc., etc. And
Mhm.
you have your You have your playground ready. And then you prompt, I want to build tralala. And then the AI starts building it for you.
Hmm.
And the outcome, and I think that's where it's going to be fantastic, is not only code, right? It's code behind the curtains. However, you will have this visual editor where
Hmm.
you'll be able to use your mouse and keyboards to perform some changes. And sometimes using your mouse and keyboard will be much more efficient than having to prompt everything, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll use a mix of prompting and mouse and keyboard. And I think you'll get the fastest way in history to build something,
Production
right? To
grade
build a
app.
digital product. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And WeWeb will continue focusing on the front end only. I think that's what we love, and that's what makes sense for us from a positioning perspective in the market. And so we'll be a decoupled front end builder that will be heavily AI assisted. I would say AI will be infused everywhere in the
Hmm.
product, and you will use a mix of prompting and mouse and keyboard, and the output will still be clean standard code that you can deploy in one click on AWS that we provide for you, or in your own infrastructure, right? And so that's for the building part. And then for the, you can also think about AI to help you maintaining, auditing your code. Like, is it performant enough? For example, sometimes people build with WeWeb and they add a lot of divs everywhere, and
Hmm.
maybe you can cut like 20% of them. The AI can perform it for you. That
Hmm.
type of things. It
Yeah.
can, yeah, make sure that your code is clean or respects a certain type of,
Yeah.
um,
Reorganize or format it for like your industry, your business standards or whatever.
that type of thing. And then
Yeah.
when you think about that, and if you think that the code will be, top-notch quality, um, I think, much less people will start using actual code or standard way of traditional way of programming
Yeah.
to build most of the front ends. Just talking about the front end today out there. And so this is going to be a reality very soon. We already started to work on this. We already hired people to work on this. We are hiring more people to work on this. And I think, we'll start seeing AI infused much more in WeWeb, probably by Q4 this year, maybe Q1 next year, something like this. And so I think 2025 will be a pivotal moment where we'll see a lot of no-code platforms actually using a lot of AI in
In
their
like a
tool.
real way.
Do
Yes.
you
Yeah.
interesting. I think
I love
I'm
that, by the
very
way.
curious to
Yeah, that's
see
great.
how the
Exciting.
editing changes. I think that's like the heart of in my opinion, one of the hardest things about AI generation is not the generating part. It's the then getting it to do the exact right thing exactly as you want. You can get pretty
Absolutely.
close, right? But if I can't code, getting pretty close with AI doesn't
Will
help
not
me
help
because
you. Yeah,
then what, right? I'm still stuck. And so
true.
having a layer on top to then manipulate the AI starting point and continue to edit and write code effectively is great.
Yes.
Especially I would have no way to judge, is the AI code any good? I would
Yeah,
have wouldn't know
very
what to
true.
do about that.
Yeah.
I'd hope for the best and just run it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Think as well about collaborativity, if I can, because building is a thing, but then maintaining together with a
Mhm.
team is
Yeah.
another. And so if everything has been written through the AI, then your starting point is prompting again to the AI, and that will you use as a context the existing code base, right? And so who did what? How do you track the changes? Most probably a lot of startups will solve this, maybe in a Git
Mhm.
fashion. People will be able
Yeah.
to
What was the
as the AI
prompt
to
that
do
made
different
this change?
changes.
Yeah.
Yes, voila,
Hmm.
exactly. Um, and so I think having everything centralized into a front end hub, if we can call it like that is visual, where designers, product people, developers can collaborate, actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Right? Even like for real programmers, I think it makes a lot of sense for them. And the real programmers will probably set the rules. I want the code to be respecting this and that. I want my,
Hmm.
my text to be sanitized. I want the builders, all the AI to use only these components that I created, my own design system, that type of things. And
Hmm.
then builders will build, and then product people will maintain, designers will maintain, developers will do some changes as well. And everything will be centralized in a more visual way than in a more textual way. And I think I think as a vision, it should bring a lot of value to the customers.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's going to launch a lot more software. There's always going to be a limitation on how many developers people can hire and access and afford to build the ideas they have. I do think we're going to maybe launch a whole bunch of half thought through and bad software as well. Now that people can build so much easier.
It's just like
But
video making, right? Now that everyone
Yeah.
can make a video, there's a lot of crap videos out there, but
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
true.
also
Yeah.
for sure.
a lot of videos that maybe not be professional, but get the results that you wouldn't have expected as well.
Very good
So
point.
yeah, with accessibility comes volume, and sometimes that volume is good and sometimes it's bad. But I love the way you think about, in your AI example, how you can build with text prompt with a visual base and whatnot. An example that I think of right away, I come from the movie industry. I'm used to building or editing with Adobe Premiere and just like editing my timeline. But then I switched over to Descript, and Descript allows you to edit via timeline or with like a text base, and almost like you're editing like a paragraph or whatnot, right? And those
Mm,
two ways work really well together.
very nice.
And then
Yeah.
I can also inject AI into that to help me with that as well. And so it provides you like a textual base, but a visual base and AI. And it's a
Fantastic.
really nice balance of the three.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes me wonder, do you so I was thinking, I don't know why this came up, and I don't know who on the call actually has the answer to this one. We think about like React as a improvement over JavaScript, right?
Mm.
Like it is a language that was then written in a framework for writing.
Yeah.
And now AI is trained off of existing frameworks. Is there
Yes.
a new language that actually gets written that becomes closer to English and closer to normal syntax and sentences, that actually is somewhere in the middle, that instead of just editing a timeline in a framework, you actually get the sentence to edit,
I
and
think
you
that's
can
called
actually
WeWeb.
change things
Uh-huh.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
That's
don't know.
just like another abstraction, is not React. It's
Right.
actually, oh, I'm just going to insert a sentence into this prompt. It will rerun that process, and now it just goes again.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's also the tangent off of this a little bit, and to expand off Raphael's idea on AI. Say that marketer wanted to come in and make their own blog page. It would also be cool to apply permissions to that marketer of what they can change and cannot change. So it's like,
Yes.
hey, you're very much in a sandbox of like, you can add visual components, but we're just going to reuse and you're not going to overwrite anything anywhere else kind of thing. So it's like
Yes.
we could put guardrails on whatever you do there, but also keep it really simple for you to text prompts to create this.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point. Like permissions, roles,
Exactly.
configurating the sandbox, as you call it,
Right.
will be key to the experience, I think, especially if you think about companies with multiple teams,
Yeah.
like many companies actually are structured. I think it will help build properly. I
Well,
think.
yeah, and one of the things I love about this too is like we have hundreds of millions of professionals using ChatGPT and prompting with that on a daily basis, right? And these are professionals that have never built with any kind of any platforms or anything before, learning
Yeah.
how to prompt on a daily basis kind of thing and talk
Yeah.
to AI.
That's a
And
good
so I
point.
feel
Yeah.
like that, and that's hundreds of millions of people, and that's that next wave of creators,
That's going
professionals,
to be fantastic.
SMBs, right? They already learning this language. And if we allow
Yes.
them to use this prompting language to then build software with, it's that
Beautiful.
next step,
Yes.
and it's gonna be a very natural thing, I think, in some ways. Like,
Yes.
they'll need to learn software infrastructures of, like, how to do all this kinda stuff, but it is a very close next step than probably anything else that they ever have.
Yes. That's very true. And so one of the challenges we will have is that we are only front end.
Yeah,
And so, you cannot build the full stack, using WeWeb.
right.
And so the way we're thinking about it is um, some of the users will not care because they are technical enough.
Yeah.
But for those who really like to describe, they never built something, but want to build something using a platform like ours, then we're thinking about creating some very strong partnerships with Zano, for
Mhm.
example, where Zano will be integrated as a product in WeWeb and vice versa. And
Mhm.
so you will have a Zano sandbox, if you want it,
Mhm.
obviously, integrated in WeWeb,
Right.
so that, your starting point will have a backend.
Yeah.
But eventually it will use Zano services, but it will be as a it will be displayed
Yeah.
in the WeWeb experience, something like that. So that's something we're going to discuss with the Zano team.
Yeah. It's
Um,
almost like what Glide is doing. Glide came up with their own tables, which is a little different, but they still leave it open to use any backend that you want. But they
yes,
just allow you to, like, if you can get started right away, we're just going to give you the integrated that allows you to do everything natively kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah, which makes sense because for the user who is lost, they don't know where to start. They
Right.
never heard about any backend or
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
It's nice to have everything integrated. So that's the limit of having everything decoupled as well. But I
Hmm.
think there are some solutions to that,
Sure.
which means that if you decide to start with a stack that we offer you off the shelf, like let's say WeWeb Zano, um, then you will be able to prompt and the AI will build as the backend as well for you, something
Yeah.
like this. But we'll see in the future. But that's gonna come. I think
Yeah.
this future will actually arrive pretty fast.
It's coming faster than we would have ever have thought a couple years ago. And now
Yes.
even last week with the advancements of Chat 4.0
Yeah.
Omni, it's like it's moving very
It's
fast.
amazing.
So
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
it's been wonderful having you on the podcast. Thank you for sharing this story and all of your time with us. Any
My
last
pleasure.
words before we wrap this up?
Well, first of all, thank you guys, for running
Of
this
course.
podcast. I think it's amazing. Thank you for having me. And yes, thank you the community. We all believe in no code because it gives power to everyone to build. And I think no code and AI is just going that direction as well. So I'm really looking forward to see what it will give.
Awesome. And if
Thank
you're
you.
interested in getting started with WeWeb, just go to weweb.io and get started today. Thank you, Raphael.
It's interesting to hear the story of WeWeb, how they kind of start in not no code, like they are a no code builder, and now they're going to be a not no code traditional AI builder moving forward, really helping lots of different types of people. Um, it's crazy to think about building a no code platform in the early days of Bubble and just Bubble being there and having really no like thought about, oh, well, Bubble is this thing, right? And how many people must have also tried to do that and thought, oh, well, Bubble is going to take over. And we see that actually WeWeb and others like WeWeb can actually just build, really great platforms in the no code space. Um, yeah, I'm curious to see what they're going to build.
I'm I love his vision. I think it's a fantastic vision. I agree with that in a lot of ways. I just can't believe that we're still finding out about these platforms that exist that have like 400 million ARR that are these no code enterprise focus or whatever. Some kind of Power Apps has this huge ecosystem. Retool has this. There's so many apps that I don't even know of, and this is what I do
Yeah.
that have huge money still existing. It's crazy. It's a bigger market than you think of in that way, but, like, there's so many different parts and ecosystems of it, that is really interesting as well, and there's a lot more exploration to do, but I think I also found, yeah, a lot of interest in that comment of just, like, all these big players that already exist. I also
Yeah.
loved how, they're WeWeb is bringing a very practical way of using no code at scale. With the ability to export code, be able to bring it on-prem, be an approved vendor of choice for these large postal systems, banks, etc. It does offer that scalability that a lot of people have said that no code can't scale, right? And it breaks all of those, paradigms in that way. And so it's great to see that we have players like this in the no code ecosystem that have proven their scalability and that can adhere to modern enterprise security standards. And it seems like they're finding a lot of success with it as well. So love to have those players and support them.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to see. I think we're in the middle of a paradigm shift and we don't know it yet, how this is going to change. Like we couldn't have predicted that React made these changes to no code.
Right.
And I think there are going to be changes in the AI world that we don't know how they're going to affect everything until someone launches the product that goes,
Yeah.
it was so obvious this whole time.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see how this changes development up and down the size of company, right? Is it do enterprises now have more challenge? Are SMBs more advantaged? Or do we see a graveyard of new products that just get launched a lot faster and just still don't go anywhere?
Yeah, at the
Um,
end of the day, you still need product market fit. You still need to know how to market and sell your product. You need the funds behind it. So software is getting easier and easier to build these days than ever before. But is
mhm.
it validating? Is it solving problems? is it worthwhile? Like those things
Yeah.
all remain true and will remain true in the future. So whether, you have the ability to create software or not, it's still really important to focus on, creating stuff that solves problems. And it
Yep.
doesn't always need to be with software. You could do it in a lot of different ways. But it's great that we have more options now with software.
I agree.
Well, David,
Well,
I think that's it for this week in No Code.
and
I
we'll
think
see
we have
you next week in No Code.
yeah, I think we'll see you next week in No Code, David. All right. See you guys then.
See ya.